Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. I'm your host, Sean Big Poppa Williams. With me, as always, when he's here, is Jamie Liehr. Say hello, Jamie.
What's going on, guys?
All right, kids, we're here for the Texas O'Reilly Auto Parts 500 from Texas Motor Speedway. Stages for this week's race are at laps 105, lap 210, and then they'll go the final 124 laps all the way to the finish.
Interesting fact here this week at Texas Motor Speedway is that it was once considered the fastest non-restrictor plate track on the NASCAR circuit, with qualifying speeds in excess of 192 miles per hour and the corner entry speeds over 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, fun fact, when the Indy cars used to show up here, the drivers were getting knocked unconscious before the repave by the G-force generated by the cars at this track. That's how fast it was. It's crazy. All right, kids, the weather should be Texas hot and muggy, as is the Deep South in the middle of July. It will be miserable for those drivers in the car, but we should be able to get the race in. No problem when they go racing at 2 p.m. Central. So hopefully we'll get this video out to you, and it'll be a short, quick hit of the information you need to know to help construct your lineups this week. Liehr, you got anything to add before we get into plays?
Let's get this thing rolling, brother.
All right. Liehr and I were discussing it, and we think that there are three important questions when you're facing the race this week in Texas. The first question is to Rowdy or not to Rowdy, yet again. This time, he's won the trucks this week. He won Xfinity, even though the car then failed post-race inspection for ride heights in the rear. He's only $9,300 this week, and he has really good track history here. But once again, this is Rowdy during COVID, and this is Cup. This isn't Xfinity or trucks. I think I'm still on the fade train, Liehr. You?
Yeah. I'm going to have multiple lineups, so I am going to have some exposure, but not very much.
Understandable, yeah. If you're entering a lot of lineups, I would understand a little bit of exposure to him. But I don't know how to over-leverage the field, because I think the field may be heavy on Rowdy this week with what he did in Xfinity and trucks. All right, question 2 that you have to ask yourself this week, and this seems like on repeat too. So other than the cowboy hats and Liehr and I looking a little ridiculous, these are the same questions that we face pretty much every week. Christopher Bell or not to Christopher Bell. This week he's significantly cheaper. He's only $9,100, and he's starting 33rd. I mean, people just keep under-owning Bell because of that price tag. It's discounted, but I think he'll probably go under-owned for what he should be, starting 33rd. Your opinion, Liehr?
Yeah, crazy part is, he's got great, so far in 2020 at 1.5 mile tracks, he's got some good finishes here, but he's going from 11,200 down to 9,100. You're getting a $2,100 savings this week, kids. Play Christopher Bell. If you don't, I don't know what you're doing.
Unless you're designing intentional fades away from it, it seems like a fairly.
As far as it's going to be, in my opinion, he's the best third wheel available. Once you pick one or two of your dominators, he's always. I'm finding myself every time, almost all the time, clicking him as the third guy, just because of the pure fact. 33rd, he started 34th last time. That's only one place difference. He scored 65 points the last time at Kentucky, which is a 1.5 mile track. Not the same cookie cutter track as Texas, but it's pretty similar. And before that, 35th, and he finished 12th with 56 points. If you're not playing Christopher Bell, I know accidents and stuff happen, but it's pretty much a free square at a $2,100 discount this week.
Liehr, people keep underplaying the guy despite all the obvious arguments. Let's not try to convince them to keep playing him. Most of you guys that watch our show, I'm pretty sure you've been on this train from the get-go, as we've been telling you. It's pretty much an easy way to get unique. Although I think
reverse psychology, don't play him.
All right. Question 3 is whether to Harvick or not to Harvick this week. Harvick is $11,300, the priciest driver, and he starts 5th. Guys, he has 3 wins in the last 6 races here, 5 top 5s in the last 6 races. And he's the best driver in current form. If you weren't going to Harvick, I don't know when you would with these track stats and stuff. Liehr, your thoughts?
I mean, there's nothing I can add to that.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I mean, you got to have exposure to Harvick this week. There's no question. Been the hottest driver in the circuit during this COVID-19 races. So, yeah, Andy's won 3 of the last 6 here, 50%. I mean, yeah. Next.
All right, that leads us to the fourth and final question, which is who else to play? And I think with the COVID stuff and us not having practice data, Liehr and I prefer the approach of just listing off the drivers in our player pool and talking about some specific reasons why those guys are in our player pool. To me, it starts at the top of the board with the guys we've already discussed. Then you've got Hamlin is an option always. Truex is always an option, especially starting 10th. Chase, Elliot, been running really good. Option, Keselowski, Joey Logano. Penske runs fairly well here. Jimmy Johnson starting 20th with his track history here is just amazing. Ryan Blaney starting second as a possible dominator would be an interesting play. Then you have Eric Jones starting 23rd as a place differential play. You've got Bowman as a possible fringe place differential play starting in the low teens. Then you have Amarola on the pole. Liehr, out of that group of guys, then we'll do the next. Anybody specifically that you're looking at in there?
I mean, I think you got to start with the last one that you mentioned, and that's the guy that's on the pole. Been the hottest driver probably besides his teammate Kevin Harvick and Stuart Haas in general, but that would be Eric Amarola. I mean, the guy's starting on the pole. He led a bunch of laps last week, was a must-own play in your fantasy lineups. You got to have exposure on Amarola this week. I mean, he's a must-play in my opinion. And, you know, you could go down to 2 and go to Blaney, who's also been one of the hottest drivers as well, along with Harvick and Amarola. But, I mean, at some point, you got to take a stance, either Amarola or Blaney. I don't think I'm going to do both or incorporate all 3. Just the math doesn't work for me there. So I mean, I love all 3 of those guys. But I think, in my opinion, the lower ownership's going to go to Blaney more than likely because he's more expensive and he's starting second. But I think when you look at it, I don't know. It's kind of a 50-50 toss-up for me. As far as the other guys...
and just real quick before you get to the other guys, I think it's interesting that if you get one of the Texas races that we've seen, a possibility could be that all 3 of those guys you mentioned there could be lap leaders and still finish like all 3 in the top 10 and be required to be on the winning lineup. I know you're saying gut wise you aren't going there, but I just wanted to point out there are math scenarios where it does pay out and it does work out if somebody was inclined to do that, and you might get somewhat unique by trying to do something like that this week.
Kurt Busch, guy's really good here at Texas, but he's starting 3rd, and I mean, I know he's cheaper this week, but next. Keselowski, definitely love some Keselowski. You know, he's always in the hunt week after week. Always a good, safe play. I just don't know if I'm going to really be going there this week. Denny Hamlin, I don't know. Not really feeling it for the ham bone this weekend. And then you got Chase Elliott, who's probably going to garner a lot of ownership just for the pure fact, coming off the All-Star race at Bristol Wednesday night, winning it. Fandom, biggest one in the sport. So, no. And then my favorite, probably out of the rest of those, is Truex. I know I'm skipping over Logano there. I mean, Logano is Logano. He shows up one race, and the next race he's not there at all. So 9th is a pretty good position for him. I'll be maybe having a little bit of exposure on that. But Truex, in my personal opinion, 1.5 mile darling with Kevin Harvick, and coming off that Kentucky, almost winning it at Kentucky. MTJ, baby. Gonna have exposure for sure. You did mention Alex Bowman too. I mean, he's going to be a guy that's going to be low owned. He's starting from 12th, so going to be a good position for you to plug in there for some possible place differential. And the guy that was the man in the beginning of the year at 1.5 mile tracks, while Hendrick was leading the stack of them. So I don't know. I may have 1 or 2, but not more than than that on Bowman, the showman.
All right, let's get to the next grouping of drivers, which starts with Billy Byron starting 18th. In my player pool, Reddick 24th. You've got Kenseth 22nd, who has awesome track history and has actually started to drive well in that car, looking like he's more comfortable. But the guy hates this aero package and says so every race. You've got Cole Custer starting 19th. That car finished second and third here last year. So that's an interesting place differential play. You've got Austin Dillon starting 21st. Ty Dillon starting 30th. McDowell starting 34th. Nemechek starting 28th. Chris Buescher starting 16th as a pray and hold or move forward a few positions. Really interesting because of the way they mispriced him on salary. And then you have Ryan Preece starting 25th, who is also super cheap this week. Although his zeros have crippled my lineups the last couple weeks. Liehr, out of that grouping of guys, anybody you think that we need to add, or do you just want to talk about those guys that's your player pool too?
No, it's definitely my player pool. I love me some Austin Dillon starting 21st. And then Tyler Reddick starting 24th, his teammate. Two guys that definitely could both get top 10s this week. Be some nice place differential plays for you. And then, from that, Ty Dillon starting 30th. Michael McDowell 34th. And then, of course, you got the Trumpster being on the car this week with Corey LaJoie starting 36th. But other than that,
dude, I would just rather play the better cars that are around him that are cheaper and I can get better. Like, I'm sorry, in my opinion, if you were even thinking about LaJoie, you should play Nemechek or Preece or Buescher.
Yes. I love the Nemechek play. I think he's going to get overlooked. But the best value on the board this week at 6K.
All right. Anything else to add, Liehr? I think we got through all of the picks and stuff. Like the guys that we didn't mention, guys, they're starting where they should finish or have the potential to go backwards. And like we said, value after Preece is non-existent in my humble opinion.
Yeah. And, just watch out for JJ starting 20th. Sweet starting spot for that guy. Mm-hmm. And best history. Obviously he's one of the ones that's raced here the longest, but best history here at this track. So coming off of getting spun out trying to stop Keselowski last week at Kentucky, he was right there in the mix, starting the same position. So just a heads up.
All right, kids, remember to join the league. It's absolutely free and fun to compete in. I'm climbing the standings. Hopefully going to take over the leader spot here in a couple weeks. It's absolutely free and a wonderful league to join. Liehr, anything else you want to say? Remember to like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Let's get out of here. Let's make this a quick video.
Hit that thumbs up. Appreciate you guys watching. Sorry we're getting it out late on Sunday morning, but this just seems to work better for our schedules. I don't know. We seem to be a lot more on point too. So thank you guys for adjusting to it, and appreciate you. Let's have some fun today and watch that Texas race. It's going to be a nice, long, awesome race. It's going to be some carnage. I can't wait to see who it's going to be, and hopefully I get to see some of that green. So have a good weekend, y'all.
Hopefully I'm winning some money, and if it's not me, I hope it's Liehr. If it's not Liehr, I hope it's one of you guys. Later, y'all. Have a good one.